Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the 10th time to the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. That's right. It is the 10th episode of Fourth and Troll Fantasy. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we are so unbelievably excited to have such a great show for you today. A great 10th episode. It's really awesome to be 10 episodes into this and still be going and still having people be excited and interact and just dive on into everything we got here at Fourth and Troll for our Fourth and Trollers out there. Wes, how you doing?
I'm great. Listen, Noah, let's just cut to the chase. Let's talk outside of fantasy. Let's talk about reality for just one moment. As I think most of you know, Noah and I have been Miami Dolphins fans for our entire lives. And what the Dolphins did on Sunday, I have honestly asked Packers fans, Niners fans, Patriots fans, what do you do when your team is the best? How do you feel? How do you feel? Because I have to feel this way right now. I have honestly asked people, like, what do I do? I've never seen our team this good. How are you feeling, Noah?
Yeah, it was a fantastic weekend for Miami Dolphins fans, Wes. I mean, the game finished. I immediately called you, and you and I were both just screaming on FaceTime. I was at work, and I was screaming on this FaceTime call. We were just so excited. Yeah, it's a thrill. I don't want to take up too much time, just gloating here, but it's yeah. I was sharing with somebody that it's been a lifetime of just garbage and disappointment and trash talk and all this stuff thrown towards the Miami Dolphins. And man, it feels good to be on top.
We're here. I mean, it's still got to figure out if we really are the best team in the NFL, but I mean, of course, people jump to the conclusions of, well, Miami beat them because, they had a banged up secondary. Yeah, that's still Josh Allen. That's still Stephon Diggs. That's still Gabe Davis was there. I mean, all the running backs. So I'm proud. I'm loving it. Fins up forever. 99, 100 million times a billion. I'm pumped.
Fins up forever and always. As I've said, we have got a great show for you today. We're going to go over what was honestly just kind of a weird week for fantasy football. I think most people just had, low scoring games and lineups, and in my case, extremely low scoring. And I think it was just a very strange week for fantasy football, but we are going to go over it in full, in bulk. We're going to do some fluke or for real. We're going to talk about anyone that we could buy or trade at the moment. If we're looking back on the past 3 weeks of NFL football and fantasy football, who's got a market for themselves. And then we're going to go over waiver wire out of the week and then close it out with a Thursday night football preview. But first things first, Wes, let's hear a little bit of the news in the NFL. What seems to be going on? What do the people need to know?
Well, what we need to know now is that we are at the point in the NFL season where it's just injuries. This is pretty much all we're going to be talking about for a while until something really surprising happens. So let's get to brass tacks here, starting in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, who had a shoulder injury. I believe it was on a fumble. I don't remember exactly the play. Yeah. He had a shoulder injury, and the report says it's just a dislocated shoulder. It's just dislocated. But he apparently has had that in the past, so he knows how to nurse it. He's dealt with it before. If it does become a major concern against the Saints for Sunday, of course, Alexander Mattison would step in. And as we know, as fantasy owners, he is one of the best handcuffs in the fantasy backup world. So if he were to miss time, Madison's a lock as a starter. Mm-hmm. Speaking of injuries, in that same game, DeAndre Swift had a shoulder injury that he's also going to have to nurse. Lions head coach Dan Campbell even said it was possible that DeAndre Swift could sit out for up to 2 games. And the way Jamal Williams also played, he could be a lock for a starting lineup. So keep a tab. It looks like Swift is much more likely to miss time than Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Regardless, just be prepared for that scenario. Another running back that got hurt. David
in the same
Montgomery.
Division, by the way.
This is
just
all,
Just to add.
NFC North is
NFC North running backs are killing it
this week. They're rough right now, but the backups, so good. All of their backups, including AJ Dillon. Great job there in the depth chart. But David Montgomery is said to be day-to-day after exiting Sunday with a knee and an ankle injury. And it's not sure if he will miss time, but if he were, just like the other guys, Khalil Herbert seems to be a great starting running back for week 4. If Montgomery is going to miss any time at all, one guy that is for sure going to miss time is going to be Mac Jones, who suffered a, quote, pretty severe high ankle sprain and was apparently screaming in pain on the way to the locker room. Best case scenario right now, it's only several weeks out. This could be a long time for the Patriots starting quarterback. In New Orleans, both Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas exited Sunday's game with injuries, but they both seem to be minor injuries. Landry just had some soreness. Michael Thomas had an ankle injury, but fear not, it's the other foot from the one that he had surgery that kept him out for like 700 days. So not anything to be concerned about for those of you that have been fortunate to have drafted Thomas with a great start to his season so far. Robert Saleh also mentioned in New York that Zach Wilson's status could be decided by the end of today. So stay tuned for that. For those of you that have Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, seeing how the running backs have been doing, but we'll keep a tab on that because Joe Flacco has actually been doing pretty well. So we'll see how Zach Wilson will contribute once he's returned. Also in the AFC East, Tua Tagovailoa, I'm sure you've seen the clip, wobbled when he got up from what looked like a concussion injury, but they have now declared that it's a back ankle injury, and it was something happened in his back that made him have that imbalance. Mike McDaniel even said that if they had practice today, because Dolphins are playing on Thursday night, if they had practice, Tua wouldn't have even practiced at all. There is going to be a little investigation to see how that works. I don't think if anything were to happen, Tua would be, suspended or anything. I'm not sure, but it just looks like that Tua's going to be fine, but they're going to really rest him to get it ready for Thursday night. Last but not least, as most of you saw last night, Monday night, everything was looking fine for the Giants. It looked like they were putting together a decent drive. It failed in the end with an interception, but on that last play, Sterling Shepard, his knee just gave out. Yeah, I mean, no one was even close to him. It was just slowing down, just buckled. It looks really serious. As of the recording of this episode, we don't have any particular news on what the injury is actually going to be, but if we're going to guess, it's not good. It's not going to be good. So, fortunately, we're going to have to try to find, if anyone wants to find a New York Giants wide receiver, it's going to be bottom of the barrel. Good luck finding a replacement for Sterling Shepard. But that is it heading into week 4 for the news. But let's recap week 3, talk about our hyped up and let down players. Noah, let's talk about some of these dudes.
Let's do it, Wes. I would love to. I mean, I think we need to just go ahead and acknowledge that a QB1 season for Lamar Jackson is very in play this year. He is absolutely lighting it up. It's it's ridiculous. I mean, I had him preseason ranked as my QB3. I was, pretty high on him. I was really excited to watch him play fantasy this year. He was dealing with the injuries last season. And my goodness, man, this is 2 weeks in a row. And I'm not even sure actually what the exact stat line was for week 1. I don't think it was massive because I think that, if I remember correctly, the Jets held the Ravens in check in week 1. But my goodness, last week with nearly 43 fantasy points, this week with just over 39 fantasy points. He is, man, he's the first person this season, first fantasy player this season to go over the 100-point mark in fantasy points. Just 3 weeks. And really two of those quarters were against Miami, where nothing really of major note happened.
He had that 179-yard rush, but other than that,
right. So barring a 14-point play there, he's just going crazy.
He's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I don't know Man, I don't know why they're not going to pay the man to stay in Baltimore. I honestly couldn't tell you, but he is definitely a guy that you need to have in your lineups every single week. Another guy who has proved himself to stay in your lineups now after a goose egg in week 1. Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith. Oh my goodness.
He had a goose egg in week 1. It was looking like the AJ Brown show.
Yeah, he had 0 points in week 1. And now he's coming out here back-to-back weeks. I believe last week was over 20 points last week. He's got 30.9 points this week. I was thinking about it and was, reading some stuff about why is this kind of breakout kind of happening now. And if we go back and look at his production at Alabama, he was never like the X receiver, like the main guy, the intermediate kind of like routes, like let's, just get our first down and stretch the field. No, Devontae Smith was the guy who could, either catch it short and just break loose, or he could just fly down the field for you and you hit him in stride. And he's getting to be that kind of player again for this Eagles offense. This whole Eagles offense is so exciting to watch play football.
They're probably, there's a lot of talk about who's the most complete team now. And, right now it's Bills, Dolphins, and Eagles. And Eagles are, I think, the most fluid. They seem so smooth all around, especially their offense. If I'm not mistaken, it was Devontae Smith that Tua hit to win that championship. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, when he came in and in the second half. Yeah, it was Devontae Smith down sideline.
Yeah, so just as you're saying, Devontae Smith is the best counterpart. It was him and Jalen Waddle. And Devontae Smith, when he won the Heisman, he said if Waddle hadn't gotten hurt, this would be Waddle's Heisman. That's the way that Devontae Smith plays as a player. And so getting A.J. Brown to be the clear, a clearly incredible addition to this Eagles roster, this is who Devontae Smith has always been. He has always been a guy that just needs another player beside him so that he can go off. We talked about it last time, fluke or for real. I think we both said for real, for sure. This is it. Congratulations to all of you who held on to him after one terrible week and believed.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is for real. He can stay in your lineups every single week. No doubt about it. Another guy, actually, Wes, let's talk about a couple guys here that are, regulars on this hyped up segment here.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert and Mac Hollins, baby.
Dude, this is the fourth and troll featuring Khalil Herbert and Mac Hollins.
Typical, man. Just so typical.
Listen, are you sick? Are you sick of us talking about them?
You should be. You should be. Let's talk about Mac Hollins. Straight. Yeah, let's talk about Mac Hollins real quick. 29.96 fantasy points this week. How did he get double-digit or decimal points? Because he threw a pass too. What's going on here? He threw a 4-yard pass. Mac Hollins, fantastic week this week. He might be, the name value of Adams is big, but Mac Hollins, his usage, while it hasn't led to production every single week this season so far, his usage, he is on the field a lot for this offense, and he has gained the trust of, or earned the trust of Derek Carr to the tune of, 10 targets, 8 catches, 158 yards and a touchdown. He was awesome this past week. Being Dolphins fans, we got to see Mac Hollins be pretty much the wide receiver 2 last year on the Dolphins offense. I was a really big Mac Hollins fan. Mac Hollins, of course, has the catch that was on the receiving end of what is the best throw in NFL history, which was Ryan Fitzpatrick getting ripped down by the face mask and delivering
against the Raiders.
A 55-yard dime to Mac Hollins for us to come back and win that game 2 years ago. But yeah, Mac Hollins, awesome to see him get out there and produce in fantasy. A guy that was, for football's sake, awesome to watch play football this week and produce in fantasy was Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
RB1 on the week, man. 30.9 fantasy points. He had 20 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also caught 2 passes on 2 targets for 12 yards. So RB1 on the week, highest scoring running back. This one stung. This one stung, Wes.
Yeah.
This one stung a lot. For anyone who may not know, I traded for David Montgomery this week in anticipation for the unleashing that he would just put out there against this Texans defense. And after 3 carries, he goes down, and it was weird because it wasn't even running. It wasn't a high impact play. He was picking up a pass block, and he got rolled up on. I mean, it's great to hear that David Montgomery is already just considered day to day, and Matt Eberflus has said that there's a decent chance he plays this upcoming week against the Giants. But man, it stung a lot to be sitting there after trading for a guy that you're excited about, and he goes out and then watches backup drop a 30 piece.
Yeah.
It feels like the points should have been there for
clearly
yours truly, but
the ground game in Chicago was fantastic. I do want to say that this doesn't actually surprise me. I mean, 30 points surprises me, but having a great game doesn't surprise me because he is the forgotten Alexander Mattison of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
People love Mattison. No, he's fantastic. They're his favorite. Mattison is the favorite handcuff to get, but Herbert was reports during preseason and training camp were saying that Herbert is going to be integrated into not a full committee, but it's going to be part of a 70-30 kind of snap share because he's just that good. And when Montgomery got hurt last year, is that correct? Last year?
Yeah.
Herbert did the same thing. So
yeah. In a game against the Bucks where everyone was kind of like, oh, we've seen Herbert flash a little bit, but it's not, it's the Bucks defense. There's no way. And he came out and did really well against the Bucks defense. Not a surprise to see Khalil Herbert do well. Just disappointing if you were a David Montgomery owner because you saw what the rushing attack could have done for you there. But an awesome week for Khalil Herbert, RB1 on the week. A couple other guys here. One Baltimore Raven and then a former Baltimore Raven, but Mark Andrews, my goodness, my tight end 1 on the year, the toitest end of all the toit ends.
Toitest end of 2022.
And listen, he's playing like it, man.
I thought Travis Kelce would end up being tight end 1 just because there's no Tyreek Hill, there's no Byron Pringle. I mean, like whatever, but like Tyreek Hill's gone. I thought, okay, then it's just going to get vacuumed to Kelce, but Kelce can still very well finish tight end 2. I wonder what the gap between Mark Andrews and the tight end 2 will be because Mark Andrews is
pretty large,
soaring through the fantasy season. It is not even close.
Yeah. After a rough week 1, he's got 2 straight weeks of, I believe, 25 plus fantasy points. He's killing it, you guys. He is killing it. It's not even, don't even think like it's like, oh, maybe I should sell high. Maybe this isn't consistent. No, this is consistent. This is where he's going to be the whole year pretty much.
Absolutely.
This is maybe closer to the ceiling, but I would say he's probably got a 15 to 20 point floor, and it's just going to be, man, the importance of the tight end position when you have one of these elite guys who now it seems like the tiers could be phasing out to just one guy on top, and that might be it. But my goodness, Mark Andrews is fun to watch play football unless you are playing against him. Another guy who finally produced how I think some of us thought he would over these first 6 weeks is Marquise Brown with 28 fantasy points, 17 targets. My goodness.
Ridiculous.
That is a lot. That is a lot of targets, especially for how kind of low scoring that Rams Cardinals game was, for how much passing was happening. My goodness, that was a very low scoring game, but 17 targets, 14 catches for 140 yards. It's nine receptions shy of tying the record for most receptions in a single game, which is a little bit unbelievable there. But Marquise Brown finally came through for you if you were a believer. 28 fantasy points helped you win. I know he definitely, at least Wes, in our league that we played together in, he helped the Marquise Brown owner win this week. Pulled out a narrow victory by, I believe, either just less than 1 point or just over 1 point. But Marquise Brown was the right play there for sure.
This will be fascinating when DeAndre Hopkins comes back.
Yeah.
So just to finish on that note, this will be
Oh,
very interesting
it's going to be
because,
very interesting. I don't know what the target share looks like, how it plays out, who gets
yeah,
targets, who gets work, who gets opportunities. I don't know. This Cardinals offense is full of talent, and it feels like none of them can actually like take over and be a lead main producer for a team, for at least for fantasy football. So it's going to be very interesting to watch how it plays out there. Let's see, let's talk about it, Wes. Derrick
okay,
Henry
all
did
right,
Derrick Henry things this week. Actually,
yeah,
I might say Derrick Henry did not usual Derrick Henry things this week because Derrick Henry had 5 catches for 58 yards.
yeah, that's surprising.
They be passing him the ball. Like what? Like Derrick, that's already like that's in one game. I believe that was a quarter that equals out to over 25% of his receiving work he had last year in 9 games, and he just did that in one game. If you're
I was
telling
just
me,
about to share that stat. Yeah,
yeah, if you're telling me Derrick Henry's gonna start pulling in 6 targets a game, I mean, yeah, I don't really care if he's rushing for 4 yards carry or under and a touchdown. I mean, if he's gonna, we know what his rushing workload can look like. Man, I know I said last week I think it's for real, and I think it still could be, but I was not anticipating this passing game usage from Derrick Henry. He's getting more passing work than Christian McCaffrey. Like in this like so far, it's so confusing. I don't know what's going on,
yeah,
but definitely had owners hyped up.
I think it's very, very, very interesting that he has 5 catches on the season already, which sounds so weird to say already. Like, wow, look at him go. But like the most catches he's ever had in his career in a single season is 19.
Yeah.
So this is
So
huge
this
for
is
Derrick
big.
Henry.
This is big. If they keep using him like this is big. And I don't see why not. I don't see why not. You threw 6 balls his way, he caught 5 of them. I don't know if it's well, we need to preserve him. We need to no. If you want to win football games, you need to include the man who can help you do that. But those
Fair
are
enough.
a bunch of guys that got us hyped up this week. Wes,
Yeah.
anyone else you want to touch on, or should we just dive into a pit of
Yeah.
disappointment?
Like every Tuesday show, we can't stay happy for too long. Let's talk about the guys that got us let down,
Yeah,
that
no way.
ruined our games.
No way, Jose. Let's move on to these letdowns. I mean, down week for Justin Jefferson last time in week 2. No way he had that 2 weeks in a row, right?
Never.
Never. Come on. But what is going
No.
on? 4.4 fantasy points for Justin Jefferson.
Look, I would say I'm not worried. I'm not concerned, but I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
It feels like watching the Vikings play. They went from one extreme to the other. Against the Eagles, it was okay. Justin Jefferson dominated the Packers, so we're just going to give him the ball every single opportunity we can. And Darius Slay said, "Okay, great. Then we'll just cover him." And then
Great. I play
it was
football,
fine.
so
Yeah. And
yeah.
then the Vikings said, "Oh, I guess we can't give Justin Jefferson the ball at all because then they'll beat us." And so they just spread it around way too much. Jefferson, 6 targets, fine. 3 catches, 14 yards. That's it. No,
Yeah.
they went to each extreme. So I'm not concerned. I'm just frustrated that it was back to back. And so I think finally, because we saw KJ Osborne get involved and Adam Thielen put up a touchdown, both Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison scored a rushing touchdown. So I think it's like, okay, they got some balance. Everyone can play football. They're going to have to get Jefferson the ball eventually. But I think it forced the rest of that Vikings offense to step up because clearly everyone's terrified of Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. I think so, for sure. I think Kevin O'Connell's a smart mind. He's going to figure out what this offense needs to do to continue to be able to get the opportunities to Justin Jefferson like he had in week 1, but definitely not what you were hoping to see in a second straight bit of a letdown week for Jay Jettas. Let's talk about another guy who absolutely exploded in week 2, which is Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill in this game where both Bills safeties were Micah Hyde is on IR, Jordan Poyer was out. I was definitely expecting a big Tyreek Hill game, expecting him to just fly past these a bit of inexperienced Bills DBs and really just do incredible things, and he only had 4 targets on the day.
Yeah, what's funny is this is what I expected. This is pretty much the fantasy output I thought would happen. I'm honestly surprised Jalen Waddle even got what he got, because the Bills hate Tyreek Hill. They have trauma. They have 2 years of having Super Bowl dreams dashed by the hands of Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, their defense is still great. Von Miller was still there. So it's not like they were shorthanded everywhere. But, I mean, I think, listen, Tyreek Hill owners, let's just say, like, you just experienced the worst week you'll have all season.
Yeah.
I mean, this was – look, again, we already mentioned that we're Dolphins fans, so we pay much more attention to these stats. But like, the Bills had 40 minutes of offensive possession.
Yeah.
So 4 targets off of 19 and some odd seconds. I mean, it could be better, but like,
yeah,
the Bills had the football almost 3 full quarters. So
yeah, bit of a weird situation for any underperformers on the Dolphins offense. Tua only threw 18 passes the whole game. So it is definitely a bit of a weird game. Not necessarily a throwaway, but you definitely probably are. That's not going to be the normal expectation.
Better now than
Tyreek Hill.
Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Better now than week 14 when you have to win to make the playoffs or something like that. You know.
One last fun thing is, guess who has Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill in the same team?
You do.
That's right. Yeah, boy. Less than 10 points combined.
Less than 10 points from the top wide receivers in fantasy football. How fun is that? My goodness.
I lost. So
yeah, we both took some L's this week, Wes. It's all good. It is all good. We will bounce back.
Right.
Well, while we're talking about being let down, Wes, let's talk about some things here.
Okay.
Let's move on to what we have titled this segment of Hyped Up and Let Down, which is the running back dumpster fire. 7.3 points, 5.7 points, 12.1 points, 6.8 points, 7.6 points. Those are fantasy football outputs from the some of the surely what should be, you know, like the Khalil Herberts of the league, right, Wes, and the Jamal Williamses of the league, right, Wes, and those guys. Yeah. No, those are fantasy point totals from Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, guys that were taken in the first 2 rounds of fantasy drafts this year. We kind of mentioned it on the last episode, but running backs kind of suck so far this year.
Where are they?
I don't know. I don't understand. I don't really understand what's happening. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, if you're, you know, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know if it's the evolution of the league, and people are saying, oh, well, it's a passing league. So you gotta be just ready for the, you know, running back isn't going to be such a top priority. Well, it needs to be a top priority when you have Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, and Alvin Kamara on your team, on your NFL team. Like, you need to prioritize getting these guys the football and giving them the opportunities. I mean,
some of these are so confusing to me.
Yeah.
Like, really confusing. Like, I mean, shout out, dud of the week, Aaron Jones, nailed it. I thought it would be more than 5 points, though. I thought he would still get double digits. That's why I said, I think I literally said it's not like a 5 points is going to suck. No, apparently it was.
No, yeah. I believe your quote was, he'll hit projection. He'll hit the 13.
Because it was a low 13 points. But
yeah, exactly.
But like, so what stands out to me the most is the Jonathan Taylor stat and the Joe Mixon stat. Joe Mixon, he had 12 carries for 24 yards
against the Jets.
What?
Against the Jets.
Jamar Chase didn't go off.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase had a low game. Like, for fantasy owners, thank goodness he had that touchdown. But like, this wasn't a passing onslaught. Like the Bengals found some way to just break through the secondary. No. 12 carries, 24 yards, and then Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, and he had 71 yards off of that. This is 12 points. Thank goodness, double digits there, but it's like 21 carries. This is not the first pick overall stat that you want. I wonder how many people are just going to panic and be like, screw it. I'm trading my running backs. I'm going to start AJ Dillon and Tony Pollard every week. Because honestly, that may not be the worst case.
It may not be the worst case scenario. It's like, I don't know if it's worth, while these guys have name value still, and they're not just completely dragged down and completely like tainted by their poor performances, if it's worth just like moving these guys for, and it's not even that you're going to be like moving them for like a better running back, because like no one's good. Like no one's good.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So it's like, do you try and send, Jonathan Taylor and your wide receiver 2 for Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle or Justin Jefferson or something like that? And I don't know. I don't think you can for sure, but
probably can't make that call yet, but
yeah, it is.
You should consider it.
It's so confusing what's going on with these running backs. It's just so many of them are having poor weeks, and it doesn't add up for how high these guys were drafted. Of the top 10 running backs selected in drafts this year, only 2 of them are currently inside the top 10. Saquon Barkley is number 1, and he was drafted as the 10th running back off the board. And then I believe it is. I've got
it right here.
Yeah, who is it?
I'm going to read
the second one.
Yeah, because I think this will be fun too. So Nick Chubb is in there, and Jonathan Taylor, and JT is still he's 10th.
Yeah.
So let's just, for fun, because I think this is pretty much more or less what everyone expected. This is the funniest top 10 going into the top 10 running backs of the entire season, not week 3 of the entire season. Number 1, Saquon Barkley, because he just had a great touchdown against the Cowboys, so he's number 1. Number 2, Nick Chubb.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not surprised, but I'm impressed. Number 3, James Robinson. Wow. That's kind of cool.
So fun to watch.
Diamond in the rough
this year, man.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for him.
Me too. And as we talked about, this is Robinson's backfield. ETN owners, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen this time. Number 4, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Who?
Yeah.
What is he doing up here?
Yeah. Sorry. 5. Actually, I don't think you got his full name right correctly, Wes. It's Clyde 100% catch rate Edwards-Helaire. What the hell? What is going on?
It's so
ridiculous. Has not dropped a pass yet.
I cannot believe that. They're like dink and dunks, but it's still.
DeAndre Swift had 4 targets and only 3 catches. Kamara 7 targets, 2 catches. Clyde's just out here, I got magnet hands. It's all good. What's up?
Yeah. DeAndre Swift, RB5 in the season. Okay, I buy that.
Yeah,
I buy that. Number 6, Cordero Patterson. I think that's surprising. That is surprising because I think we did not expect him to be this good, but it's also kind of
not like again.
Right. It's like I at least recognize your name. Okay. And then it's Aaron Jones.
Yep.
But the fact that he's there is so weird because Jamal Williams is the RB8 on the season. What?
Yeah.
And then Khalil Herbert is RB9.
Oh, man.
He just played his first game.
Yeah.
It's so – I don't know what to do. We have more we're going to vent about. We're just expressing frustration because this is not the way fantasy is supposed to go.
Yeah.
Mom, Dad, you don't get it.
You don't – guys, cut it out. Yeah, it's a little ridiculous here. I'll add. I think I was planning on saving this for a little bit later in the episode, Wes, but I'm gonna just call it audible since we're just talking about the running backs right now.
It's about time.
It's about time. I think we need to discuss. Well, actually, here, I'll say one thing first, real quick.
Okay.
We're going to discuss it in Fluker for real, but it's a little bit of a tangent off running backs, but it'll tie this in pretty well. Arthur Smith, good job.
Yes.
Congratulations. Yeah. Congratulations. He obviously saw the clip, listened to the episode, saw what I had to say.
Right.
Got Kyle Pitts the football, and the Falcons won a football game. Look what you can do. Look what you can do, Arthur Smith. You can get your best player the football and make fantasy managers happy and win a football game all at the same time. Congratulations.
Wonderful. Dirty Bird Falcons. Great job.
On that note, since me ranting on the podcast apparently convinces coaches to do clearly the correct thing, Matt Rule, listen up, okay? You need to sit down with Baker Mayfield and say, hey, buddy, you trying to prove to the NFL that you're still good because you got butthurt because your team wanted to trade for a quarterback who was better than you? You wanting to prove that you're still good at football, and on 3rd and 4, when Christian McCaffrey's open in the flat and is one of the best open field football players in the league, you bombing it to Robbie Anderson instead of checking down there on 3rd and 4, stop it. Baker Mayfield is ruining Christian McCaffrey for fantasy football. Before this season, before the quarterback change, all this stuff, nearly 2/3 of Christian McCaffrey's fantasy football production came in the passing game. He's not getting thrown the football. He's not getting thrown the football because Baker Mayfield is too full of himself and wants to prove a point that he thinks he can still play football, which he's not good at, by the way. He's not good at football. He's not. He threw for 190 yards in their win over hang on. Who did they beat?
Saints.
The Saints. 190 yards against the Saints to win a game finally. Your first win of the year. Congratulations. Do you recognize that you don't need to bomb the football down the field in order to win a game? Great. Take your opportunities, put the football in the best player on your team's hands. Give Christian McCaffrey the ball. I shouldn't be ranting like this because it's fantastic to watch Christian McCaffrey go through 3 games of heavy rushing workload and come out healthy on the other side of it every single week. The Panthers are handling his health very well, but my goodness, your game plan is garbage and you need to put the football in his hands. I'm not even talking like outside of fantasy at this point. You're 1-2. If you get to the point where Sam Darnold is healthy, Baker, and you guys still have only 1, 2, maybe 3 games, and Sam Darnold is available and healthy, you're going to get benched because Matt Rule has won games with Sam Darnold as his quarterback before. He knows what Sam Darnold can do. You're going to get benched if you don't pick it up and keep winning football games. Put the ball where it needs to be in Christian McCaffrey's hands. You will win games. You'll keep your job. You'll make fantasy managers happy. My goodness, as if my laundry list wasn't long enough for why I don't like Baker Mayfield. Add this to the list.
Oh, that was such a joy to listen to. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Oh,
I love it. Okay. It's my turn.
Go ahead.
Using math.
Go ahead.
I just want to show
Do the maths.
Like, this is how Christian McCaffrey owners feel. Everything you just said, Noah, this is how you feel. And you have very good reason to feel this way. Because looking at how bad McCaffrey's stats are compared to everything else is astonishing because it's just Baker Mayfield's fault. So Christian McCaffrey averaged 126 targets per season his first 3 years.
Yeah.
That's 7.8 per game. Currently, he's only on pace for 78 targets for the whole season. Worse than that, he's averaging he averaged 101 receptions in his first 3 seasons. He's on pace for 56.
That's worse
This
than
is
like I don't even
Derrick
have
Henry
words
might
right
do
now.
better, as you
Yeah,
said.
it's ridiculous.
This is even with an extra game. This is even with 17 full games. And I mean, you even want to look at like I'm saying the first 3 seasons because he missed 2021 and 2020, but even that he was on pace for 99 targets and 90 catches in those 2 seasons.
Yeah.
This is so different. The difference, it's Baker Mayfield. That is it. Only 3 quarterbacks have fewer passing attempts than Baker Mayfield, and yet only one of them also has fewer yards than him. This is out of every quarterback that has played these first 3 games.
Can I play trivia real quick?
Yeah, you can.
It's Justin Fields, right?
It's Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the only one who has
cool.
fewer attempts and fewer yards. But even the guys that have fewer attempts still have more yards. This is even worse. Baker Mayfield is 11th in QB rushes. He has 12 rushing attempts, which doesn't sound like a lot. Josh Allen has 19.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me he's just that shy away from Josh Allen where they have direct option calls for Josh Allen? They have QB draws like Cam Newton and Michael Vick. I mean, this is ridiculous. Baker Mayfield is doing that. So the fact that Christian McCaffrey is not getting the ball, it's completely, statistically, Baker Mayfield's fault. And if you even want to point, I'm getting mad now. If you want to point to the idea that maybe he's running it because they're under pressure a lot, no, this is literally statistically the lowest pressure rate he has had in his entire career. He has only been hurried 6 times all season. That's 2 hurries per game. You mean to tell me he's going to be hurried 34 times all season and he's running this many times and he's not throwing it to McCaffrey? Why is he tucking the ball so much?
Yeah.
Here's another stat. The receivers from this game against the Saints, they only had 2 catches. The most any Panthers receiver had is 2 catches. He's not even doing well. He was the worst quarterback on 3rd down last season. He was the worst in touchdowns on 3rd downs last season. He's not good. He's not good. It's ruining McCaffrey. It's ruining DJ Moore. It's ruining Robbie's season and everyone. The Panthers have to stop playing Baker Mayfield. He's not the answer. I didn't think I was going to get this angry, but here I am.
I love it. Fourth and Troll Fantasy, officially sponsored by not Baker Mayfield.
It's officially against Baker Mayfield and probably Matt Rule. I'm so sorry. I grew up in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Not what we're hoping for here from this offense. Let's move on though. Let's jump into Fluker for real, Wes. It's a crowd favorite. Let's jump into Fluker for real. Fluker for real. Let's rapid fire here, Wes. We already talked about it a little bit, but Mac Hollins, 29.96 fantasy points, Fluker for real.
I have a very good reason to say fluke because Hunter Renfrow was out.
Yeah.
But at this rate, with the way the Raiders are playing as the last winless team, might as well be for real. Honestly, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, Devontae Adams is not the guy he should be with the Raiders.
Yeah, I saw McDaniel. I mean, Devontae Adams touchdown in every game he's played so far, but has not been pretty from a fantasy standpoint. I think if McDaniels wants to keep winning, he needs to figure out how to just get whoever needs the football. It doesn't need to be a certain guy or anything like that, but I think he needs to do a little bit of work there. Devontae Parker finally saw some flashes here, 20.6 fantasy points for the New England Patriots. Fluker for real.
I am one high ankle sprain away from calling that for real, but that Mac Jones, I am not confident. So yeah. I think it would have been for real, but with a different quarterback for a while, it's going to have to be a fluke.
Yeah, the 10 targets, I think, comes from Jacoby Myers being out this game. I think it probably played a little bit of a factor there for him. Only, 5 catches for 156 yards. He did have a long catch there. But, I'm going to say fluke on that one. I don't think he's going to produce there. It took him 2 weeks to get there. Watching this guy from being a Dolphins fan for so long, watching him have his first, 4 or 5 years of his career in Miami. Can't really stay healthy. We'll see what happens there, but I agree. I think it's a fluke there. Let's talk about a guy I'm excited about, Wes. Chris Olave, 23.7 fantasy points back-to-back weeks with 13 targets. Is this fluke or for real?
This has got to be for real.
Yeah, I think so.
Got to be for real. I mean, I think you put it very well at some point. I don't remember if it was on the podcast. It was just the two of us. That's blended together the way we talk about fantasy. You pointed out that Michael Thomas, his injury, his history, they have to have someone else. And they got that with Jarvis Landry, but they also have that with Chris Olave. The way that he's producing. I mean, both Thomas and Landry did exit the game, but that is still a fantastic stat. And that's back-to-back weeks. So
back-to-back weeks with 13 targets. Mike Clay from ESPN talked about it a lot this offseason. He said, follow the draft capital. These wide receivers that go high, these wide receivers that go in the top 15 picks, these guys are going to be legit. And we look at it, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, all these guys that were taken high, doing great for their team so far. Chris Olave, I think that is for real. Dameon Pierce.
Oh my God.
18.1 fantasy points. Saw a really, really solid week from Pierce there. 20 carries, 80 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches for 21 yards on 2 targets. Wes, 18.1 points. Is it fluke or for real?
I have an idea of what you're going to say, and I think we're going to contradict. I'm going to say fluke.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think 18.1 point floor is for real.
Exactly.
This Houston Texans offense is not very good. He's not going to be in a situation very often to kind of do this. This is the same Bears defense they were playing against, who Aaron Jones went nuclear against.
Right.
Who Dalvin Cook, not a great fantasy performance, but still, carry the rock for 20 carries in week 1.
I think the 20 carries for Dameon Pierce. I think we're going to see 14 to 20 carries starting now.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if he gains, 4.1 points from the passing game, cool. If not, I think he's from here on out, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. We finally see things that we like to see here from him, but I think he'll probably be a touchdown dependent flex play more often than not there. Russell Gage, finally a guy that was getting a lot of preseason hype before the, Tampa Bay brought in Julio Jones, but Russell Gage, 24.7 fantasy points. Fluke or for real, Wes?
It's just got to be fluke because of how many other wide receivers were out.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I think he is good. I liked him in Atlanta. I thought he was a valuable wide receiver, but this kind of output will not have, it won't even get close again because Mike Evans is gone. Chris Godwin was gone. Julio Jones was gone. Now that Julio Jones is going to be amazing, but that's how many receivers were already out. So 24.7 points, not happening again.
Yeah, no, I agree. If Russell Gage was the leading wide receiver consistently in Tom Brady's wide receiver room that consisted of Russell Gage, Rashad Perriman, and Cole Beasley, I'd maybe say for real, but no. I mean, and maybe that just shows the depth that the Bucs have. Russell Gage, fantastic player, but not going to see these kind of opportunities whenever all of those receivers in that room are healthy. Another wide receiver that kind of burst onto the scene here this week, Romeo Doubs, maybe. These rookies don't really know. Maybe it's Romeo Dubes. I don't really know, but 21.3 fantasy points, Wes. 8 targets, 8 catches, 73 yards and a touchdown. Are we seeing maybe a little bit of an emergence for potentially Aaron Rodgers?
Romeo Dubes.
Are we seeing a little bit of maybe an intro for Aaron Rodgers' potential number 1 wide receiver this year?
I think so. I think this is for real. And I think it is with Al Nazard getting back into the rhythm, everything. Randall Cobb had a good play at a 40-yard catch. Aaron Jones is clearly established in the passing game, although it was tough sledding for him on Sunday. I think this is for real because there is not a single wide receiver Aaron Rodgers hyped up more from the young receivers that he blasted. He liked Romeo Doubs the most.
Yeah.
And we saw him play really great in preseason. So I think this is legit. Another comment to that is that he led the team in targets and he had a 100% completion catch rate.
Yeah.
8 for 8, 73 yards and a touchdown. I think this is for real. And I mean, we got some good waiver wires coming up, but I think if you can't get our top 2 waiver wire ads, I think you can tack him onto your waiver wire queue.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, as you pointed out there, 100% catch rate. We saw it on Arrow's first pass in week 1. Christian Watson dropped that rainbow into that was just in his hands. He dropped it. When you earn Rodgers' trust, he goes back to you. And I think Mr. Romeo Dubes may have earned a little bit of trust this week. Let's fire through these last ones here, Wes. Your waiver wire ad from week 1, Zay Jones, 24.5 points. I know you're going to say for real, but fluke or for real?
For real, bruh.
For real. For real. Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome to see Zay Jones do that well. Awesome to see, guys that we make our calls on, that we call our shots on, do well as well. Really, really great to see Zay Jones do that. I think he is definitely in flex consideration from here on out for your fantasy football teams. Devin Singletary had 13 rushing yards and somehow had 24.1 fantasy points, Wes, because he was heavily involved in the passing game for the Bills this week. 24.1 points is fluke or for real?
I am inclined to say this is a trend upward into the for real category because I think what the Dolphins proved is that Josh Allen cannot do it alone. And Stephon Diggs still managed to get double digits against a Dolphins defense that really, really played very well. And I'm not being biased. I mean, the Bills have 8 football teams for breakfast, lunch, and dinner the past 2 weeks, and they shut them down in 19 points. Stephon Diggs, he still had 74 yards, but I think this game is forcing the Bills to have to get the ball around, kind of like what I was talking about Justin Jefferson. They're going to have to get at different players, and I think the passing game is going to begin to integrate more with Devin Singletary, maybe some more Zach Moss, maybe your boy James Cook starts getting a little bit of action too. But I think I'm ready. I'm willing to say this is for real. I'll take that shot.
I think it's trending upward for sure. Another AFC East running back, Ramondre Stevenson, 20.1 fantasy points. He is now out-snapped Damian Harris.
Yes.
Each of the last 2 weeks, Ramondre Stevenson with 20.1 fantasy points. Wes, is it fluke or for real?
I say because of the snap count, 62% on Sunday to Damian Harris's 38%. I say because Stevenson had 12 carries and Harris had 11 carries, but Stevenson had 6.1 yards per carry and Harris had 3.7 yards per carry. I think Ramondre Stevenson is the better running back. And so for that, I say for real.
I agree. I agree with you. Definitely. I think he's in the same category there with Singletary, trending upward for sure. Yeah. Especially if there is going to be an uncertain, maybe not as confident quarterback throwing. I think Ramondre Stevenson can see a bulk of work. He had 5 targets this week. I think you can see a bulk of work and an uptick in the passing game usage for him. I like the outlook on Ramondre Stevenson, especially while Mac Jones is out, but for the rest of the season as well. Jamal Williams, we talked about him a little bit, 24.7 fantasy points. Again, a little bit of a banged up week from DeAndre Swift, but are we thinking fluke or for real, Wes?
I cannot figure out why this would be a fluke.
Me neither. He's been awesome whenever he gets the opportunity. We saw it in Green Bay. We've seen it while he's been on the Lions. I think Jamal Williams, especially if Swift is going to miss some time, I think he's a lineup lock. They get the Seahawks this week 4. Should be a delicious matchup for Jamal Williams. So I agree. I believe that is for real. Let's move on to a guy I'm not so high on. It's Breece Hall, running back for the New York Jets, rookie running back for the New York Jets. 15.2 fantasy points, so we're thinking fluke or for real?
So like Stevenson, like Singletary, I think it is trending upward. This is the first time that Breece Hall has out-snapped Michael Carter, 51% to 49%.
Hey, now.
But this is a much, much more flat incline compared to Singletary and Stevenson. So for the sake of this segment, this is a fluke.
Yeah, I think so as well. Last one here. We got Cam Akers, who with just 10.1 fantasy points, you don't think he'd be in this good section, but given that he saw 0 fantasy points in week 1, what do we think here, Wes? He had 12 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown, got to 10.1 fantasy points there. What do we think? Is it fluke or for real?
I think compared to Daryl Henderson, for real. But I think going forward, I need him to prove it again for another week or maybe 2 before I'm willing to start him.
I agree.
I'm kind of indecisive. It's like, okay, that's nice, but you haven't convinced me because you got a touchdown off of 61 yards.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you for sure. Let's jump over to some of the players who weren't so good this week. We're going to see if they're going to break these trends or not. We already talked about Christian McCaffrey a little bit. We know what the outcome needs to be for him to really succeed in a fantasy football realm. But he had 13.5 fantasy points, which again, like for these guys that were taken so early, he's RB11 because Saquon broke into the top 10 there. He's RB11. Like it's not what you're wanting, but you're not like losing your weeks because of Christian McCaffrey. It's tough. But as I said earlier, you got to be excited seeing a guy go out there and get 25 carries. A guy like McCaffrey who has dealt with these injuries so much, and get 25 carries and come out of this for the second week in a row with over 100 rushing yards and be healthy and be okay. I haven't heard that he's been taking a leak at practice, so I haven't heard if he's on the injury report. But 13.5 points. I think it's probably for real as long as Baker is around. Is leading that offense, and that's a bit of a bummer. But I think he's bounced around 13.5 points. I believe he had around 16, 15 in week 1 and 2.
I wouldn't say he's worth trading away because you get double digits every week.
Yeah, it's consistency.
Yeah.
The floor is just a little bit lower than it's been in the past.
Yeah.
Count on you, Sam Darnold. Get back in the game. Let's get it going. Let's go to McCaffrey's teammate though, DJ Moore, just 2.5 fantasy points. Again, this is a Baker Mayfield rip you apart special because I mean, I'm going to ask you fluke or for real, but I think we both think this is for real as long as Baker's a quarterback.
You said it. It.
As long as Baker's a quarterback, this is for real, and it's tough to be excited starting a Carolina Panthers.
DJ Moore has had 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and it's so hard to think he's going to do that again with a game that gets 2 yards.
Yeah, no. Not great. Not a great look. Not a great look. Aaron Jones's counterpart in the backfield, AJ Dillon, with just 5.8 fantasy points. Wes, fluke or for real?
I think this is going to be for real, but I think he has such a boom upside that this is what people sign up for with a fantastic 1-2 punch like this. I think we're gonna have to endure more of these single-digit games than I think we may expect. What do you say?
I think we've seen both Packers running backs have a great week and a down week. And then they both had a down week against a very good Tampa Bay Buccaneers rush defense. So I think they are both in store for I'd still probably say if you're an AJ Dillon owner, he's worth being in your flex spot, unless you have someone that's wildly better than him and you know, or if you listened and you picked up Curtis Samuel. I don't know.
Really a pain out. Curtis Samuel's a top 10 wide receiver entering week 4 with fantasy, by the way.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it?
More than Joel Fantasy, never been wrong.
Never been wrong in our entire lives. Rashad Bateman, 5.9 fantasy points. Wes, fluke or for real?
I'm not a Bateman hater, but them's the maths. I was saying it. Guys that have 5 or fewer targets in week 1 will not be top 15. I think this is what we're going to expect. I was the one who said trade Bateman while he's hot, and I walked away with Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. And you know what? They're not going to get 5 points again. Bateman is probably going to see some some single-digit games here and every now and then. I say that's for real. We'll have another game where he's bombing it, But I think this is going to be a trend.
Yeah,
I know you don't believe it.
I think no. I mean, I think it probably is. You're going to be closer to this than you are, the boom weeks. But I do think that my reasoning for him being a my guy was that I saw this passing game going through Mark Andrews and through him, and it's only going through Mark Andrews. So if you're a Mark Andrews owner, congratulations. But man, even Devin Duvernay, actually, who I ripped on in the preseason, but it's like he scored another touchdown. Catch. He scored another touchdown. And so
beautiful.
A bit of disappointing there. I think better days are ahead for Rashad Bateman, but just temper expectations for the rest of the season here. I still believe, but it may just be a little bit of rougher going. A couple of other guys here, Wes, a couple of Denver Broncos, Jerry Jeudy with just 3.7 fantasy points. And I'll loop in this other guy here just because it feels like we might need to talk about him together. Russell Wilson with just 9 fantasy points this week. Is this the reality? Is this the reality of this Broncos offense? Are we trying to figure out what's going on? We thought it was going to be so high powered, but what's happening?
I will say it is going to take a lot of work for me to find a more boring offense than this Broncos team right now, especially with the potential.
Or if Russ isn't a good fit. I can't tell. I can't figure it out. But
I will say you and I are so far very right about Courtland Sutton. Even as abysmal as this offense is, he still walked away with plenty of points. Yeah, so I think Sutton is fine.
Points.
But Jeudy
coming off the injury from last week, I'm not too concerned yet. He's still getting good. He's still getting good. He's the second most targeted, pass catcher.
It's an eyebrow raise, though.
It is.
The stat is
coming back from injury. I'm not too concerned yet. I think if we get 2 more games down the road and we're still looking at these single-digit games, we know his potential. We saw it in week 1. He had a ton of targets in week 1, and then he had 3 targets just in the first quarter before he got hurt in week 2. I'm not too worried yet about Jerry Jeudy. I think he still has the chance, and I think this offense has to figure stuff out because under a new ownership group for the Denver Broncos and a new head coach, they may be willing to just purge while they're out front and 1 year in and just say, well, that didn't work. Let's figure out another one. Let's figure out another coach, figure out something else. So if Hackett wants to stick around, he is getting booed at his home stadium. It's rough.
Tough. Eli Manning had a sick burn on the Manning cast on Monday. They were talking about, because Pat McAfee came on and they were talking about all the puns, because McAfee, of course, is, for those who don't know, he was a punter for the Colts, so he knows Peyton Manning personally, and of course then through Eli as well. And Eli was talking about all the punts from the game, and McAfee was loving the Cowboys and Giants punts. And then they started talking about how many punts were in the Broncos and Niners game. And Eli said they should have given that $200 million contract to the punter because he's doing more than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he's doing more than Russ is. Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with this Broncos offense, but it's they got to figure it out. One thing is for sure on that offense is that Courtland Sutton is looking like the guy we were hoping he would be. And so, and 18 fantasy points last night, just shy of it with no touchdowns scored. So definitely exciting to have him on your team. We're going to have to figure out more things with this Broncos offense, though. That's going to be it for Fluke or for real for this week 3 recap. Let's go ahead, Wes. We're going to jump into our waiver wire ads of the week real quick. Wes, give us your waiver wire ad of the week. I think it might be some guys that we've already talked about.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue on this player with Jamal Williams, who was in the top 10 running backs for the season, which is just absurd because DeAndre Swift also is. Like, that's a receiver kind of idea, but here we are.
Yeah.
The reason Jamal Williams, I think, is worth getting with these running back injuries, and the reason I think he is incredibly important is because there has actually been a slow increase in Jamal Williams' snap count and the way he's been involved in the rushing game in Detroit. He's been chipping away at DeAndre Swift's snap count, and I don't think we realized it because we think that he's a goal line back. He's not. Check this out. Week 1, DeAndre Swift outsnapped Williams 67 to 33%. In week 2, Swift outsnapped him 51 to 34%. But on Sunday in week 3, Jamal Williams outsnapped DeAndre Swift 67 to 33%. This wasn't an even split. Jamal Williams was the guy. On top of that, he had 20 carries on Sunday, which was tied for third most in the NFL. That is not a guy who just got lucky with some points because he's on the goal line. This is a guy who is really integrated into the way this football organization is trying to the way that Dan Campbell is saying that we're going to get knocked down and we're going to step back up twice. It's that kind of idea. Jamal Williams, this guy's legitimate. And if Swift is out, fantastic. You have all the carries. When Swift comes back in, he's still going to get carries. He's still going to get goal line touches. He's still going to get touchdowns. So Jamal Williams, go get him. He's owned in like 44% of leagues, which is still crazy. That he's
ridiculous
still not
that
owned
it's that
much.
little. Yeah,
that's why he's on the waiver wire out of the week, because not even half of you have him. So go get him.
Yeah, for this segment, we like to try and keep it guys that are less than 50% owned. And when we were going over the breakdown for this episode, and you said Jamal Williams is going to be my waiver ad, I was like, I don't know if he qualifies. I think he's like 80% owned or something like that. Like, he definitely should be. Nope, like half of that. And I was like, oh, well, that's absurd. And you guys should learn stuff. Wes, I know you're an only child, so you've never had to wonder who your parents' favorite child was. Jamal Williams is Dan Campbell's favorite child because, man, he loves that dude. He loves that dude. Dan Campbell loves Jamal Williams.
With his Pokemon Hard Knocks.
Yeah, we saw it on Hard Knocks. Who doesn't love Jamal Williams? He's a great dude, but he loves to give him the opportunities. Deuce Staley likes running that running back room, giving it a little bit of a rotation. And so I'm excited for Jamal Williams. I'm a Jamal Williams owner. I'm part of that 44%.
Oh,
I'm
well done,
thrilled
sir.
because I lost David Montgomery this week, even though he's still looking to be day-to-day. But that brings me to my waiver ad of the week, which is going to be Khalil Herbert, running back for the Chicago Bears. As I said earlier, it pained me to watch him go off. I traded for Monty, was expecting this explosion. Herbert got the 30 points. He was awesome. He ran 20 times for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns, just shy of 8 yards per carry. That's a stat line that David Montgomery has never hit in his career before. Herbert was awesome. He was awesome to watch. We don't really know what it's going to look like for David Montgomery as far as his injury outlook goes. Eberflus has already said he's day-to-day, so the outlook is better than they actually initially thought for him. Like I said, it was a weird injury. He was blocking on the play. It wasn't like a big high-impact tackle or something like that. He was blocking. He kind of got rolled up on. Regardless, after a performance like Herbert had, he needs to be rostered. There's no reason he isn't rostered, if for no other reason than if there's a running back needy team in your league, you need to go ahead and try and pick him up, because if you can try and get some trade value out of him for someone who's going to be maybe a little better season long, if you don't necessarily need Khalil Herbert on your team, totally go for it. In 4 career games where Khalil Herbert has filled in for David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert averages 22.5 opportunities per game, which is his carries plus targets. And he averages 14 fantasy points a game in 4 career games where he's taken over the backfield for David Montgomery. I think he definitely needs to be rostered. I think it is definitely somebody you need to have on your team and prioritize as a waiver ad. That is going to do it for our waiver ad of the week. Let's do a little bit of a Thursday Night Football preview, Wes. Is that cool with you?
Let's do it. Let's do it quickly. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this wonderful podcast.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We're especially excited for Thursday Night Football this week.
There we are.
Miami Dolphins travel to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to give you our must starts, our risky starts, and our don't starts real quick. Wes, run through with us your must start for this Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, just a side note. All of you who have endured these brutal primetime games, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
The Dolphins and Bengals have incredible games when they play. I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. Baby. Every time they play, it is something awesome. So buckle up. You will have your money well spent for Amazon Prime. So
Halloween 2014, Cameron Wake with a walk-off safety, and I called it. I called the play. I said,
on that play,
he is going to get us. It's a walk-off safety right here. Walk-off safety was incredible. Wes, jump into it. Must start for Thursday Night Football. Who is it?
It's Tyreek Hill. And of course, I'm going to pick the guy that has the most upside of any player in this game. But this is the assurance of like, hey, as I mentioned earlier, he just had his worst week of the season, so don't be afraid. However, I talked about how the Bills hate Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill hates the Bengals. Yeah. Because he is already shouted out. He is already trash talking the Eagle, excuse me, what am I talking about? He's already trash talking the Bengals. He's already calling out the secondary. He's like, oh, you're going to try to guard me now? Yeah, I remember what happened. This is going to be awesome. And I know he's dying. He's dying to be unleashed because this was the game plan. This is what the Dolphins needed to do to beat the Bills. Tyreek Hill is going to go to Mike McDaniel with apparently cojones that are so big it needs a wheelbarrow, according to Tyreek Hill. And Tua, who is proving people who has over 900 yards passing, that he's a guy. Watch Tyreek under the lights. This is going to be so fun. Start him. Don't be worried.
I'm so excited for this game, for both these teams to be seen on prime time. Got teams that have been talked about a lot this season so far, and we just haven't really gotten a huge opportunity to watch them yet. But no, I agree. Tyreek Hill has already called a shot back on Eli Apple after the playoffs last year. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited for it. My must start for this Thursday Night Football is another wide receiver.
Yep.
And it's going to be on the other side of the football. It's going to be T. Higgins, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins has seen 17 targets over the past 2 weeks, averaging 16.7 fantasy points per game. If we remember, he left the game in week 1 quite early. He was in the concussion protocol for most of the week after that. He's been back. He's healthy. He kind of took a big hit again and got checked out. No issues or anything like that. He came back in the game. Yeah, Higgins has been the highest scoring Bengals wide receiver over the last 2 weeks. And with Jamar Chase drawing the attention of Xavier Howard for this game, I think T. Higgins needs to be locked into lineups, and he should be in line to see a great opportunity for big fantasy points for your fantasy football teams this week. T. Higgins, a highly ranked wide receiver for me. I do believe I had him inside of my top 10 coming into the season. I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense can support both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to be great guys. And I think T. Higgins has a great chance on Thursday night to shine. Wes, let's get a little risky. Let's get a little risky for the biscuit. Who's our risky start for this week, Wes?
I'm going to say the risky start is going to be the Miami Dolphins defense. Now, if they stop that Bills offense at 19 points, why would they be a risk against the Bengals, who get sacked incessantly? I think the Bengals are beginning to find their AFC Championship rhythm. It's taking a little bit, but I think they're starting to get it involved. And like you just said, Noah, I think it's because they're not going straight to Jamar Chase for every single play. I think everyone knows Jamar Chase is it. We can't let him get the football. And T. Higgins is breaking out. Tyler Boyd had a bomb. He had a huge 56-yard catch. So I think there's a potential for the Dolphins to see some points lost because Joe Burrow might get some action. Plus, this is a college rematch from what would have been the battle for the number 1 spot in the NFL draft with LSU and Alabama. So I think they're ready to fight each other because Burrow was out with an injury his rookie year when Tua started to play the Bengals. So I think this is going to be an exciting game, but I think maybe a little bit of risk. I still think it's worth starting, but I think there's a potential that the Dolphins, this may turn into a little bit more of a shootout than I think we expected.
I think so. I agree with you. There. I think it's definitely risky to run that Dolphins defense with such a high-powered Bengals offense on the other side of the field, which leads me to my risky start. My risky start for this week is going to be Joe Burrow. He saw his first win of the season last week against the Jets, along with his highest scoring fantasy football output for the season with 23 fantasy points. Miami, however, is coming off of holding Josh Allen to his worst fantasy week of the season so far, which, by the way, was still like 26 fantasy points, which was,
400 yards. Yeah.
It is what it is. He'll do for 400 yards. But I think there's a little bit of a drop off there between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. I think the Dolphins defense is going to be special against Joe Burrow this week. We've seen a week from the Dolphins defense, or from the Dolphins, where it was an offensive explosion and then defensive dominance pretty much. And then I think this week we can see the two combine. And I think the Dolphins defense rattles Joe Burrow, a quarterback who had 5 turnovers in week 1. I think they rattle him to a bit of a poor fantasy performance on Thursday night. And I think if you're a Joe Burrow owner, you should be bracing for a potential letdown if you are going to start him and run him up this week.
I like it. I'm actually someone who owns Joe Burrow and Tua, and those are my 2 quarterbacks on my team. And
just flip
I'm gonna. I mean, there's a guy who owns Tyreek on that same team. I'm gonna go for the stack
him up. Yeah, stack him up. See what happens. I like it. Wes, who are you not starting this week?
I don't think you should start Chase Edmonds. I know he just got 2 rushing touchdowns. It was only 15 points. That's not the reason. It's not because he didn't have a lot of yards. Because that was the game plan to beat the best team in the NFL. This is not how the Dolphins offense is going to be. It speaks a lot about Mike McDaniel that he beat the Bills without using Tyreek Hill. That's not going to happen for the rest of the season, though.
Yeah.
Chase Edmonds, I mean, Noah and I have been complaining all episode about the running backs. Chase Edmonds is not the fix to your running back woes, at least for this week. So it's going to be passing. It's going to be Waddle and Hill again. It's going to be Tua. I mean, maybe Mike Gesicki gets another great touchdown in the back of the end zone, but it's just – don't swap out some name brand running back for Chase Edmonds because he got 2 touchdowns. No, that's a goal line game plan situation. Don't consider Chase Edmonds as a start for Thursday Night Football.
I agree. A bit of uncertainty in that Dolphins backfield. We've seen one game where Edmonds gets a lot of the work. We've seen a game where then Mostert gets a lot of the work, and now we've kind of gone back and we see Edmonds get the work. It's a bit confusing. Not sure which guy you should be starting, so I opt to stay away from both of them. If you were me.
Same.
My don't start for Thursday Night Football, I'll round us out here. It's going to be another Bengals wide receiver. It's Jamar. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be Tyler Boyd, a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Tyler Boyd led Bengals wide receivers in yards and fantasy points in week 3. He scored his 2nd touchdown of the season in the process. Sounds like it should be a guy that you should definitely be considering, but I'm not so sure against, especially some consideration, maybe if you're thinking about it in terms of, what the Dolphins defense has done to guys in the slot against the Dolphins defense, who just gave Isaiah McKenzie 21.2 fantasy points out of the slot. Boyd could be an interesting option this week if you wanted to, if you needed it, but his touchdown dependency is a bit of a deal breaker for me. He hasn't topped 4 catches in a single game this whole season. So I just think you should leave him on your benches this week unless you're in a super deep league and you do need a deeper flex. He's a great option if you need a deeper flex. If you're in a 14-team league or a 16-team league, something like that, I think if you're hoping he gets in the end zone. But touchdown dependency is a bit of a deal breaker, and I am not so sure that he reaches the end zone in this Thursday Night Football matchup. That is going to do it for this episode, our 10th episode of 4th and Troll Fantasy. Wherever you're listening, we'd appreciate it if you gave this episode 5 stars and write something funny in the review so we can give you a shout out next time. Thanks for sticking around with us. We're so grateful for that. We are on social media everywhere at 4th and Troll, and on Facebook at 4th and Troll Fantasy. Look for our mascot, Toddy the Troll, and make him smile by giving us a follow and joining us next time, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy.